Welcome to our channel, where real betrayal meets real consequences. If stories like this one speak to you, subscribe now. You won't want to miss what comes next. My name is Elena. I was 29 years old, 3 months away from my wedding, and I believed I was the luckiest woman alive. My fiancé Derek had been in my life for 4 years, long enough for me to hand him everything: my trust, my plans, my future. I thought we were solid. I thought what we had was unshakable. Looking back now, I can see every sign I chose to ignore. But back then, I wasn't looking for cracks. I was busy building what I thought was a life. What I didn't know was that someone else was already tearing it down from the inside. It started with a comment that felt too small to matter. "You seem distracted lately," I told Derek one evening. We were having dinner at home, and he hadn't looked up from his phone in 20 minutes. "Work stuff," he said. "Big proposal coming up. You know how it gets." "You've been saying that for 6 weeks." He finally looked up and smiled. "Elena, come on, don't do this." "Do what?" "Make something out of nothing." I let it go. I always let it go. 2 days later, my best friend Priya called me while I was on my lunch break. "Can we meet tonight?" she asked. Her voice was flat in a way I recognized. Priya didn't do flat unless something was wrong. "What happened?" I asked. "Not on the phone. Just meet me, please." We sat in her car in the parking garage of her building. She handed me her phone without saying a word. On the screen were screenshots, a conversation between Derek and a woman named Simone. Not just flirtatious messages, intimate, detailed, dated over the last 7 months. "Where did you get these?" I asked. "Simone is my coworker's sister," Priya said. "She had no idea you existed. When she found out Derek was engaged, she sent these to my coworker herself. She was furious. She thought she was the only one." I stared at the screen. My hands were steady, which surprised me. "There's more," Priya said quietly. She scrolled to another screenshot. It was Derek texting Simone. "Once I marry her, I get access to the Voss account. Her father's estate has been sitting in trust since she turned 25. She hasn't touched most of it. We won't need to worry after that." I read it twice. "He knows about the trust?" I said. "Apparently he's known for a long time. My father had passed when I was 22. He'd left me a substantial inheritance, managed through a trust that would transfer fully into joint marital assets the moment I married. I had never discussed the details with Derek. Not the amount, not the structure, not the timeline. Someone had told him, and he had been planning around it. "Send me everything," I said. "Elena, send it all, Priya. Every screenshot, every message." She nodded slowly. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I said, "but I'm not going to cry about it in a parking garage." She reached over and gripped my hand anyway. I let her hold it for exactly 5 seconds. Then I pulled out my phone and started forwarding files. For the next 3 weeks, I did not change a single thing about my behavior. I kissed Derek goodbye every morning. I attended the venue tasting with him on a Saturday. I smiled at the florist and nodded at the table arrangement and said yes to the centerpieces we had already agreed on. I was the perfect fiancé. Meanwhile, I met with my attorney, a sharp woman named Carol who had handled my father's estate since before I could sign my own name. "He can't access the trust if you're not legally married," Carol confirmed. "But the moment you're married, under the terms your father set, those assets become marital property." "And if I marry someone else first?" I asked. Carol paused. "Then you're already legally married. There's nothing for Derek to claim." I sat with that for a moment. "That's a drastic option," she said carefully. "I'm aware." "Elena, I want to be sure you understand what you're considering. This isn't a small legal maneuver. You'd be entering a legal marriage with a real person. I understand that. And the annulment process after the fact is straightforward if both parties consent and the marriage was never consummated. I've already read the statutes. Carol looked at me over the rim of her glasses. Your father always said you were the one who read the fine print. He was right, I said. Now help me protect what he left me. The second piece of evidence came through Priya 4 days later. A financial document, an unofficial loan agreement between Derek and Simone, where he had promised her a lump sum payment within 12 months of his marriage to me. It was handwritten, signed by both of them, and photographed by Simone herself. He had made a financial promise to another woman using money that belonged to me. I forwarded everything to Carol and told her to begin preparing the paperwork. The stranger's name was Ethan. I had met him briefly at a gallery opening 3 weeks prior. A friend of a friend, quiet, well-dressed, someone who had handed me a glass of water when the waiter missed me. We had talked for maybe 15 minutes. He had given me his card. I called him the following Tuesday. This is going to sound unusual, I told him. All right, he said. I need to get married, quickly, before next Friday. I can explain the full situation, but the short version is that I'm trying to protect assets that belong to me from someone who has been planning to steal them. A long pause. And you're calling me because... Because you seemed calm, and you don't know Derek. Another pause. Then, send me what you can. I'll read it tonight. He called me the next morning. I'll do it, he said, under one condition. What condition? After this is over, I get to explain something to you. Something I should have said at the gallery. That's vague. I know, but it matters. And you'll understand why I waited once you hear it. Fine, I said. I'll need to meet with your attorney first, he added. I want everything documented properly. I'm not doing this informally. That surprised me. You want to meet Carol? I want to understand exactly what I'm signing and what I'm not signing. I'm helping you, Elena. I'm not walking in blind. I respected that more than I could say out loud at the time. I'll set it up for tomorrow. Carol met with Ethan for 40 minutes while I waited outside her office. When he came out, he looked the same as when he'd walked in, composed, unhurried. She's thorough, he said. She is. Good, then let's do this. We were married at the county clerk's office on a Thursday afternoon. Priya was our witness. Ethan wore a gray jacket. I wore a blouse I had grabbed from my closet that morning. We signed the documents and shook hands with the clerk and walked out into the afternoon like two people who had just renewed a lease. Thank you, I told him on the sidewalk. Don't thank me yet, he said. You still have to finish this. I finished it 4 days later. Derek and I had a dinner scheduled with my mother and her husband, a long-standing monthly arrangement. I had not told Derek that Priya would also be there, or that Carol had joined us at the restaurant early, or that I had forwarded everything to my mother's attorney the night before. We ordered drinks. Derek was charming, attentive, doing what he always did in rooms full of people who mattered to him. My mother asked, "So, are you two still on track for the spring date?" I set down my glass. Actually, that's something I wanted to talk about. Derek looked at me with a smile that hadn't registered anything yet. There's not going to be a wedding, I said. Elena, he started. I got married Thursday, I said, quietly, at the courthouse. The table went silent. Derek's smile stayed on his face for 3 full seconds before it broke. What are you talking about? I married someone else, I said, which means the trust my father left me will not be transferring to you. which means the plan you and Simone worked out in writing, the one where you pay her from my inheritance, won't be happening either." "That's insane," Derek said. His voice dropped. "You're not serious." Priya placed her phone on the table, screen up, showing the screenshots. All of them. "Those are your messages," I said. 7 months of them. You don't understand what that is. And this," I said, sliding the photographed loan agreement across the table, "is your handwriting and your signature." My mother looked at Derek with an expression I had never seen on her face before. Pure stillness. "Derek," she said, "I'd like you to leave this table." "Mrs. Harlow, this is completely out of context." "You made a financial agreement using my daughter's inheritance," my mother said. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "There is no context that explains that." The couple at the next table had stopped pretending not to listen. A server had paused near the host stand. Derek looked around and seemed to realize for the first time how visible he was. "You set me up," he said to me. His jaw was tight. "You built the trap yourself," I said. "I just stopped pretending I hadn't seen it." "Now," my mother said. He stood up. His chair scraped loud enough that the table next to us looked over. His face had gone from charming to something I didn't recognize. Tight and sharp and cornered. "You planned this," he said to me. Quiet, almost a whisper. "You planned yours first," I said. He left. Carol handled the legal side efficiently. Derek had already moved some of my personal documents, scanned copies of the trust paperwork, from a shared cloud folder to a private drive. That constituted unauthorized access to financial records. His attorney advised him not to contest anything. He didn't. Priya told me 2 weeks later that Simone had ended things with him the same night I had walked out of that restaurant. Apparently, he had called her in a panic, and she had decided she wanted no part of whatever came next. I didn't feel sorry for him. I met Ethan for coffee on a Sunday morning, the week after everything had settled. "You said you had something to explain," I said. He folded his hands around his mug. "My father was Marcus Wren." I looked at him. "The Marcus Wren who was my father's business partner for 11 years? "Yes." "Your last name is Cole." "My mother remarried when I was 9. I've used Cole since then." I sat with that for a moment. "You knew who I was at the gallery." "I did," he said. "I've been trying to figure out how to approach you for over a year. My father left documents, correspondence between himself and your father, that I think you should have. Things about the trust, about who your father intended to be involved in managing it after he was gone. Why didn't you just contact me through an attorney?" "I tried. Your estate attorney never returned the calls. I think she was protecting your privacy." "She was," I said. "She's thorough." "I know that now." He paused. "I want to be clear about something, Elena. I didn't marry you because of the estate or the trust. I married you because what you were dealing with was wrong, and you asked me to help, and I could. That's the whole reason." I looked at him for a long moment. "I believe you," I said. "Good. And I want to see those documents." "I have them with me," he said, and reached into the bag beside his chair. We sat there for 2 hours going through my father's letters. By the end, I understood things about my inheritance I had never known, including the fact that my father had written, in his own hand, that he hoped whoever stood beside me would be someone who understood patience and integrity over ambition. He had written it 8 years before he died, in a letter addressed to his oldest friend. Marcus Wren had kept that letter, and his son had carried it to me. "He wrote about you," I said quietly, still holding the page. "My father wrote about what kind of person he hoped I'd find." "I know," Ethan said. "I read it a long time ago. I didn't know if it was my place to bring it to you, but after what almost happened, after what Derek almost took from you, I couldn't hold on to it anymore." I set the letter down carefully. "Thank you for not letting someone else get there first." He nodded once. Nothing more needed to be said. And I understood something I hadn't expected to understand that morning. That the stranger I had married on a Thursday afternoon to outmaneuver a man who had never truly loved me had known my family's history longer than Derek ever had. Derek had wanted my money. Ethan had carried letters from my father for over a year, just to make sure they reached me. Some people walk into your life with their hands out. Others walk in quietly, carrying something that belongs to you. I knew the difference now. I filed the annulment paperwork the following week. The marriage had served its purpose, and Ethan and I agreed on that without conflict. Carol confirmed Derek had no legal standing to pursue anything. The trust remained mine, intact and untouched. I don't think about Derek anymore. Not with anger, not with grief. He made his choices long before I made mine. The only thing I'll say is this: if you build a plan on top of someone's trust, don't be surprised when the foundation disappears. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.